Good morning. And a great day to start with, but sometimes political issues become quite a humor, except for the pain and the misery they cause to the people. If somebody has to learn how not to keep the promises, if somebody has to learn how to break the promises, if somebody has to learn how to observe the promises by just going diametrically opposed to what you had promised, then we have a great example in our government in Ontario, headed by Honourable Kathleen Wynne. People, especially patients, have been quite annoyed that when they go to the hospital, they are gouged by the parking. The parking fees are pretty high. And the Premier, one day took cognizance of this trouble, this pain, this agony, this gouging. And she said that she has received reports. She has heard from the patients that the parking fees are very high. And she is going to take effective steps to reduce the parking fees by 50%. And lo and behold, within 48 hours, the promise was fulfilled in a way that will make you laugh and cry at the same time. In one hospital, the parking fee went up by 300%. In another hospital, the parking fee went up by 250%. Wasn't the promise to reduce the parking fee by 50%? And what is this, going up by 300%? From minus 50 to plus 300%. What's this mathematics? It eludes me. I cannot comprehend it. I cannot understand it. If any one of my listeners can explain me the complexity of this calculation, I'll be obliged. If the Premier can explain to me how her promise of reducing by 50% resulted in increase by 300%, then I think she deserves the Nobel Prize for economics and mathematical ingenuity. But look at it. In Burlington hospitals, the parking fees goes up from 95 to 250 for 30-day pass. It's before you. In Hamilton, it's 250 to 246 per month. Now, what has happened in Hamilton and Burlington is testing. You know, when you market any product, you test market it. And if the market accepts your product or service, then you launch it in a big way. So the government has tested this. Are the patients willing to accept 300% without any major issue being raised? There would be murmurs of protest, but would they be sufficient enough to unseat a government or to create an issue to its existence? If yes, then this example may not be replicated. And if the people accept it silently, quietly, without a protest, without a murmur, well, then what's wrong with getting 300% increase in revenue? Extended to by phases to southern Ontario, to GTA, and then to the North Ontario. Cover the whole of Ontario in slow strides, one by one, bit by bit. And the patients and their well-wishers, their visitors, if they can be gouged, why not? This is really death by 1,000 cuts. This is exactly the strategy adopted by ISIS towards West. Small increases to make people feel at ease when further cuts are applied. Now another part of this. Say the increase is 300%. People start protesting, and then the government comes in a magnanimous way and says, okay, we reduce it by 10%. Now, people at that time would have forgotten that the Premier had promised a decrease by 50%, and this is an increase by 300%. Indirectly, it's an increase of 600%. And therefore, the cut of 10% is bad. Even then, even if you accept it, the cut is of such a nature that the government is still left with an increase of 290%. What a joke. So the people are happy at that time. Near the election, the government announces, well, there's a cut of 10% at 20%. Government announced a cut in the insurance rates. What has happened? Government comes up and says, well, there'll be a cut in the hydro prices, and see what happened. But the latest cut of the parking fee, that takes the cake. I bow my head to the Premier and her minions who can come up with these zany schemes to cheat, to rob, and to exploit the poor people. People were easily misled. The credulous people who are taken in by the promises, and when the promises are not broken, but they are reversed 180 degrees, that's a tragedy. And it is further accentuated, further increased near the election time, say a month before the elections. They'll say, okay, we are going to reduce the parking. By that time, people would have accepted this parking of 300% increase as a common fact, and even a cut of 10% would be sufficient enough to go and put across on the ballot across the Liberal candidate. Well, I'm not saying that only Liberals indulge in this chicanery. Conservatives would do the same, and NDP would do the same. Because corruption seems to have seeped into the bloodstream of our politicians. What we used to see in South Asia as a common thing would have horrified us here in Canada. But in a multicultural society, the cultures of one country impact the other, so the culture of South Asia, in this way of making tall promises and breaking them with impunity, and rather going back 180 degrees, which in this country might have been an anathema, are today a matter of course, something which has to be accepted. Then another thing which came up from Ontario is equally interesting. On November 25 last year, government brought in an act, Healthy Choices Act. And that was that you could smoke, vape marijuana, electronically smoke marijuana, in places where smoking was prohibited. And the people were told that it had been done after consultation with a lot many people, after discussions, focus groups and consultations. The documents obtained by the media reveal another story. There was one seminar in which 35 experts discussed, and only one of them suggested this. Then in consultation, only 2 people were there who recommended it. And based on the advice of the 2, it was touted that smoking marijuana is good, so it should be permitted wherever smoking is permitted. What to say of this? Again, jugglery, chicanery, or plain cheating. I have been putting a great score on the process of consultation, because the process of consultation means that the people as a whole have been involved in taking a decision. That is, the people who are affected by the decisions have a say in that. And in case they have agreed to something and something wrong happens, then they are guilty as well. The blame cannot be laid on the steps of the government. But when the consultation becomes a farce, then it's not a consultation. You get 2 people and they say do it, and you say, well, we have held a mass consultation and accept it. This is plain fraud on the people. The Assistant Minister, Dr.Lamba, is a very nice lady. And when she started defending this, I was pained. When I came to Canada, she was a news anchor, and she was the second person to interview me, the first being Indira Naidu Harris on the TV. And I've always admired both these ladies for their honesty. Deepika and Indira are clear and clean and honest. Nobody can say anything. But they have to perforce as ministers defend the government. This is defending the indefensible. I don't blame them. I blame the whole system. If vigilant media had not obtained these confidential documents showing the fraud that is perpetrated on the public in the name of consultation, make people believe that majority want it, that the sample selected wanted it, then people might have objected to it. But then they were under the impression that the medical fraternity approved it, experts approved it, and the people themselves accepted it, rather wanted it. So the government, being of the people, by the people, and for the people, has to act for the people, in the interest of the majority, carry out the wishes of the majority, and hence this idiotic, basically harmful law came into effect. I marvel at the devilish machinations that prompt such an action. So today we have seen the prime examples of keeping promises and having consultations. What a great commentary on the democratic process, on the process that ensures good of the people, as well as on the much wanted, much boasted, much proclaimed honesty and integrity of the politicians, of the leaders, of the Canadian system. You see, there's a continuum of lies, scandals, scams in Ontario. And I sometimes really feel that except for the climate part, except for the nature's beauty, I'm living in Nigeria, Rwanda, India, Pakistan, all over, but not in Canada. This is not the Canada that I thought of. This is not Canada where I migrated. This is not Canada which was supposed to be honest, where the people had integrity, where the politicians were selfless and dedicated to the service of the people. Still I have hope. I know some people can be wrong. I know the majority of the Canadians are absolutely of impeccable honesty. I only hope that that vast majority of the honest people prevail. I only hope that this minuscule minority who happens to control and happens to be in leadership either realizes its mistakes or is made to realize its imperfections and either get over those imperfections or get out. There is no third option. It's either get better, live up to the Canadian values, Canadian ideals, or just get lost. These are the only options. I hope they do not get lost, they get better. I'm always for a country, a leadership that serves the people. I wish they really serve the people. Thank you.